I'm going to address the uncomfortable field trip under the critique framework. So I would want to know uh, about the case if Miss Anderson even created a student survey for students to see if they were interested in leaving their building and going into a marketing agency for a field trip, and if she received that feedback or not, and then what the conversation looked like for the dress code. Did she have specific expectations she set for the students, or did she just have the blanket statement, dress nicer than you do for school? For the facts of the case that I think are important for the critique framework would be the racial difference between Miss Anderson and the two students of color that she's addressing regarding dress code. Um, the cultural difference is obvious as well. I think the fact that she thinks that the sneakers are immediately a way of them not taking it seriously versus understanding the cultural aspect of dressing nicely and still wearing your nicest shoes doesn't mean that they have to be dress shoes versus basketball shoes or tennis shoes. And then the social class separation. She's taken students who have never had a family member be in college to a place where you would have to have a college degree to be able to be hired. In her mind, as a teacher who has education background of college, it's perfectly acceptable. Students who don't have that experience or exposure are finding this to be much more unattainable and unrealistic for them in their regular life. What steps would I take to investigate under the critique framework? I would want to know the demographics of the field trip. I would want to know how many Hispanic students, how many African American students, students of colors beyond that. And then gender, I would want to know if she had a balanced group or if she just took kids based on what she needed to do for that field trip. Again, the student survey, I would want to know if she had an interest survey done to see if kids would care enough to want to be on their best behavior. Would they benefit from having this trip other than just being out of school for the day? Um, and ask Miss Anderson, were those students dressed nicer than they were on a regular day? If they were, then that's what they did. They showed respect by dressing nicer. Just because they're wearing tennis shoes and you took that as a disregard to your rules, understand that they did dress nicer. And then their presentation of the trip, people who took them on the tour, how many people of color were involved in that? Did students see themselves reflected in the agency, or was it so unattainable for them that they were disengaged from the beginning? Steps to make a resolution by the critique framework. I would implement a restorative conference between the teacher and the students to allow them equally to have voices, the teacher to address her concerns regarding the dress code and the behavior, but for the students to address that they did, if they did in fact try to dress nicer, even though it was tennis shoes, they did try. And that comment from the sarcasm of the basketball probably negated their conversation for the rest of the trip or their behavior for the rest of the trip not being involved. I would think a restorative practice conference would suffice in resolving this conference.